Welcome, Impactful Parents. It's time for the Impactful Parenting Podcast, where I give you parenting tips and resources to make you a more impactful parent to your school-age child. I am your host, Kristina Campos. Welcome, Impactful Parents. Today we're going to be talking about how you can be unintentionally scarring your child for life. Hello, my name is Kristina Campos. I'm founder of The Impactful Parent, and I help parents of school-age children who want to stay one step ahead of their kids to turn their chaos into connection with their adolescent. I'm a mom of four, a teacher that taught every grade from preschool through high school, and today I help moms and dads like yourself to navigate that exhausting, confusing, frustrating, but rewarding world of parenting. So welcome to The Impactful Parent. And today I have my co-host with me, Rodrigo Bravo. Rodrigo is a co-parenting mediator out of the state of Texas. He's a parenting coach, and he is a dad of two boys. Rodrigo brings a dad's perspective onto the Impactful Parent stage to give you even more expertise and an added perspective on our parenting topics. Thank you for being here, Rodrigo. We got a great episode today.
People who are very funny often grew up in circumstances that were not funny at all.
That's interesting you say that, because I remember Jimmy Carr saying, people always ask me if I'm depressed. That's why I'm a comedian, but actually you should ask if my parents were depressed.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. I mean, very often the wit of the child is there to ward off the parent's depression.
Really?
Children come into the world, and all of us are honed by nature to figure out, what do I need to do here to survive? In some families, you need to excel academically. In some families, you need to fail academically. In some families, you need to be very witty. In some families, you need to be invisible.
Why would you need to fail in some families?
Oh, well, the classic one is parental envy. Some parents are hugely envious of their own children, and they cannot bear that their child, who they've put on the earth, should be happier than they've managed to be. And so therefore the child has to take early retirement. Families are difficult places, and dynamics occur that really go way beyond what we're ordinarily prepared to tolerate.
When I first saw this video, I was like, boom, mic drop. Because we don't talk about how family dynamics shape the personality of children and the future relationships that child is going to have. We don't talk about that too often. And yes, most of us know that birth order of children makes a difference. And if a child's exposed to trauma, of course. But I love how this guy, his name is Alain de Botton, and he breaks it down into the simplest form and says that we all just subconsciously think, what do I need to do to survive in this context? And so that it just opened my eyes to so many things in my own life when I saw this. And then I started thinking about my kids and all that, it just like trickles down. So I'm going to ask you, what personality traits do you possess because it was a coping mechanism or a survival skill? Like, what did you need in order to survive in your own childhood? And I'll go first. So for me, I am constantly thinking 10 steps ahead. I have a very difficult time living in the moment and enjoying the now, the present. Like I just do. And I contribute that coping skill that I had to having a dad that I never wanted to make upset, that I was literally afraid of his temper. Because I come from an age where, definitely there was corporal punishment, spanking and belts and things like that. So for me, my way of learning to cope was thinking of every single possible scenario that might happen in any situation, and then trying to pick which is the best option for me. So I'm 10 steps ahead in everything I do, even to this day. And sometimes it's actually to a detriment, and I hate it because I want to live in the now. I want to enjoy things at the moment, but I have a really, really hard time with that because I'm always thinking about even like, well, if I relax right now, what's that going to mean for later? If I can let down my guard right now, what's that going to mean for later? I mean, I just cannot get it out of my head. I know you have these things too, Rodrigo, and our audience has a ton of these same kinds of coping mechanisms that we've just developed, because what was the best way to survive in our situation? So I wanted to hear from you. What did you think about the video and your coping mechanism?
So it was really funny when you sent the video to me. I as soon as you said funny humor, I try to be that funny guy. I try to be, kind of the humor guy and this and that. I play my role, right? I didn't realize how impactful, haha, this was. I've gone through my mental health journey, my mental wellness journey, and with my therapist. This never came up, but I was the funny person in the family. I coped with things through humor. I wouldn't necessarily think that I used a lot of humor with my dad, but I know that he's a funny guy. And so when we did have our moments, it was usually like a joke. It was usually something funny. He would laugh, I would laugh, and then I would use that to kind of gain acceptance. I was like, oh my God, so let's keep this running. And we just make a joke, because he was finally not angry. He was finally not this, kind of, I don't want to say bitter at that time, but definitely somebody that just carried around a lot of weight on himself. And I also don't think that he ever had those humorous moments with his dad. So I don't think he really understood the impactfulness of having those moments with me, and how his entire kind of philosophy and the way he grew up really impacted me and made me kind of fearful in a way of having interactions with him. So yeah, I definitely dealt with things through humor, and I still do that now. And again, I spoke with my therapist. This never came up, only to say that, you probably use humor as a defensive mechanism to kind of get away and escape and not really talk about things and so forth, but not to this type of deep level that this video shows. So I really thought you were reading me when you sent me this video. I was like, well, why Kristina peering into my soul right now? Instead of me this video that basically is, telling me about my childhood. But yeah, and you're absolutely right. I love what you said about this kind of this perpetual anxiety that continues, that never stops. And so you're just walking around and you can't enjoy the moment. Why? Because you're kind of fearful what's going to happen next. So, and instead of like celebrating what did happen, you're just thankful nothing went wrong. But then you start immediately thinking about the next issue that could go wrong.
And oh my God, that is it right there. That I couldn't have articulated it like that. And that's it. I can't. That's why I can't enjoy the moment.
And that's wild, right? Because you should be able to enjoy the moment. You should have these victories. You should kind of reflect and say, hey, I did that shit. Say this is dope, this and that. But you're so stuck in that frame, in that cycle, that you can't enjoy the victories. And more than anything, you'll definitely reflect on the losses or the defeats. And it's so wild how we do that and how we're programmed because of our childhood. There's so many different things that happen in this video, and we'll definitely discuss it. But I thought it was very interesting that you started off with the anxiety, because I think that's exactly what we're really kind of coping with and dealing with, and what we don't want our kids to deal with. This is the reason we're talking about these issues, is not so that necessarily Kristina and I can, vent out and hopefully heal. All that would be helpful, right?
That would be great.
But more importantly, it's really to understand, okay, we know what this is going on. Are we practicing these same generational kind of steps? You know what I'm saying? Are we parenting like our abuela? Or are we really kind of, breaking that chain, and so that our kids are not in this position? I think that's the most important thing that we're trying to do right now as part of the Impactful Parent, and really gives parents those tools of self-reflection to understand what they're doing.
Yeah, that's it. And why we're talking about it is, yeah, it's great for ourselves, but we don't want to pass these down. And until we realize that we're doing it and we have these traits, how can we say, oh, I need to stop that? You can't until you know that you're doing it. And yeah, this is going to be a great episode because of that. Now, when kids feel like they need to be invisible, I know that could be a really scary place for them, but some kids need to feel like they have to be a perfectionist. And some kids feel like they have to be compliant. Some feel like they have to be the leader of the family and take over the mom role because maybe their parents are not parenting. I mean, I know I'm saying this, and there's so many people probably nodding their head going, yes, that's what I had to do. I didn't have a parent, so I had to be the mom and I had to take care of my siblings. And oh man, I mean, the list goes on of all these coping mechanisms that we do, and then we can't let go of these as an adult. So those are some of the things off the top of my head. I would like to know if you have any examples that you could demonstrate of that kind of personality shift in order to cope or to survive. I mean, have you seen that? I'm wondering, even like in my own children right now, how do I see them coping with some of the dysfunctionality that might be even in my own home? Because we all have a little bit of dysfunctionality in our homes. I mean, come on, we're none of us are perfect. So now that I've seen this video, I'm looking at my own kids and going, how are they coping? How are they shifting? How are they compensating?
Yeah.
I don't know. You have any stories even from your professional practice about that?
When the gentleman was talking about how we cope, one of the things he mentioned was sometimes that means being scholastically spectacular, where you're just, chugging along, just, being academically superior, or maybe even failing to get the attention because of envy of your parent or so forth. I fell in the first category myself. I was a straight A student my entire scholastic career, except for 2 times. And those 2 times I got an 88 in science. And then I got an 83 in science. And me remembering those 2 grades, I got an 88 in science in 3rd grade, and the 83 in science was in 6th grade.
Oh yeah, that's like ding ding ding.
that's trauma, bro. That's trauma, yo. That's how I remember. It's so seared in my head. I don't know the other grades.
October 18th.
Yeah. And again, this is so on point. The first B that I got, that 88. There's a funny story correlated with that. And it was my first B. It was my first non-A that I ever got, ever. And my dad was incredibly upset. And it's a story. Basically, he ended up building a library for me in the family home. And everybody, when I tell the story, they're like, "Oh my God, that's great!" But when I told him why I got the B, I had told him it's because I don't have any books. So he built me this library, and we bought all these books, and we're going through this entire journey. It's a great story. I'm not going to tell you the whole thing, but at the end, my dad shows me the library with the new World Book Encyclopedia, leather bound, gold foil on the sides, the young health science library, a bunch of books that we bought at the Segunda, at the thrift store, all this stuff, and it's a beautiful library. And then he does that, and then I tell him, "Thanks, Dad." And he leans in. And he tells me, "Now you have all the fucking books you need."
Oh, that's pressure. Oh.
And I was like, holy shit. Like this moment that I thought, like, okay, like my dad's like, he heard me, and I felt seen. It wasn't. It was more of a retribution, more like revenge. That my dad said, like, "Oh, you say you need books? I'll give you all the books you need." And he said it was such a bite, that it stung. And yeah, I love the books, but then the books ended up being a tool of oppression for me, and I just want to clarify, I talk a lot about my dad, and there's a lot of trauma there. I love my dad. Okay. I give him a lot of grace over grievance because my dad was raised a certain way in Mexico, in Guanajuato. And I don't blame him. My dad loves the way he loves because that's the way he was taught to love. And yes, that doesn't mean I have to I'm going to put up with some of the stuff he does. But I definitely do put up with a lot of stuff he does because I know that he doesn't know how to express that love. And so I take it the way it comes. But growing up, this is what I had to go through. And then the second time that I got to be, that was definitely a much more traumatic experience, not humorous at all. And it was a wild experience. It was just very, very wild. But it's so seared in my brain that I remember saying, like, I'm not going to put my kids through that. And so I made sure, like, when, academically, like, hey, I want you to do good at school. I'll provide what y'all need. Let me know, what the tools you need and this and that. But I silently put that pressure on them because I would tell them how good at school I was. And I didn't even realize I did that till later on, till my own son told me that. And so now I use that experience. My youngest son told me, like, well, you were so good at school, I'm just trying to be like you. And I'm like, oh man, I accidentally did exactly what I didn't want to do with my boys, which was set these expectations and said, I just told him, like, hey, do good, do your best, try, etc. But here I am kind of like unconsciously throwing these standards at them and making them feel a certain type of way if they didn't meet these standards. I didn't even realize I was doing that. I'll end right here. My clients, I often tell my clients, you're going to come in with your own biases because of your upbringing. You're going to come in with your own set of rules and standards and this and that. Your kids already have a lot of pressure, especially the clients that I work with. They're going through a divorce, they're going through a separation, etc. The kids are already under a tremendous pressure. You've got to be adjustable. You got to be flexible with your kids in this time because they're dealing with so much. They're filled with anxiety. They're filled with tension. They probably see, you and your partner, your ex-partner, now your co-parent, fighting or having these little moments that they're going to start developing reactions to those moments, whether it's through humor, whether it's through withdrawal, whether it's through, anxiety. So I definitely tell my clients, be on the lookout for those signs, but more importantly, be on the lookout for those signs with yourself. What are you doing to cause that undue pressure? Try to relieve it and tell your kids, like, hey, I'm here for you. Leave that floor open for communication because it's so critical. And like you said earlier, Kristina, we're I don't want to say we're experts, but we're out here trying to help folks, right? So we have a certain level of experience with parenting. We both fall into that trap ourselves, and it happens, and I know you said that before, that we try our best, but sometimes, that bias comes in, that history comes in, that you don't even, realize that you're unconsciously putting pressure on your kids.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that it was that you had not only your example about your dad and how you are, but how you're passing that down unintentionally because we just do it. Like we don't even, it's all we know. And until we change ourselves, how, it's, this whole thing it's a very deep subject actually. And I'm glad we're talking about it because no one is. And this whole interview from a different podcast, it's really good interview. He also talks about parental envy and that parental envy requires a child to fail. And I started thinking about that. I would think that this manifests itself with things like, you don't even realize it as a parent, but it's not giving your child the attention maybe that they want or need, or recognition that they need, because they just, I don't know, there's something inside you that doesn't want to recognize it, and maybe you're not realizing that you're doing that, or maybe you're making excuses for not being able to do certain things. Like, I don't have time for play dates, I don't have time for piano lessons, or some I can see some of this parental envy also manifesting itself in like going to college. But the opposite is true too. Sometimes parental envy can force children to be the best in something so that the parent can live vicariously through their child. But in reality, the child doesn't want to do those activities. And there's that caveat when the child is doing it just to please the parent because it's their survival technique, it's their coping mechanism, it's the way to not rock the boat. So they comply and the parent just keeps going with it. And I don't have evidence to prove that, but from my life experience, I think forcing children to attend university may be one of the more popular ways that parents force their children to do something that they don't want to do to make the parent happy. Because our older generations, we have it in our head that university equals successful, or that you did a good job as a parent if your child goes to university. And
Ding,
even
ding,
better,
ding, 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 ding. That's
yeah,
go ahead,
right?
keep going.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
even better, you're even a more successful parent depending on what kind of university your child goes to. And I think that like all these little examples I just want to bring up because this topic is endless with some of the things that parents inadvertently do to our children and how children comply just not to rock the boat. And all of it's really sad. I don't know.
No, I think you're absolutely right. You know, so many times we end up using our own bias to raise our children, right? And we haven't healed. We haven't gone through our mental health journey. We don't understand the subconscious items that we're carrying with us and that we unknowingly throw onto our kids. That's a great example, and I see that with my clients quite a bit, where they're setting up their college fund for their kid and this and that, and they talk about, oh yeah, I want my kid to go to Rice University, and they're interested in astrology. I've been buying them astrology books and this and that, and then I tell them, okay, your kid's only 4, and, and I'm like, hey, look, this is great. I'm not against like having plans for your kids and so forth, but you're being super specific. What if your kid doesn't want to go to Rice University? What if your kid doesn't want to be a rocket scientist? What if, there's all this, kind of decisions that you're already making for your kid. And you don't know what your kid really wants, and they're only 4. I'm not against planning. I'm not against aspirations. That's great. But again, there's consequences to that. And one of the biggest ones is you end up putting these undue pressures and expectations on your kids. I told that to the client, and I shared the story to my client. My first 2 years at the University of Houston was pre-med. And this whole time I grew up, and my dad would go, "Oh, my son's going to be a doctor, this and that." I realized my senior year I wanted to be a teacher, and I took the 2 years, and then eventually I told my dad, hey, yeah, I want to be a teacher. Oh my God, he was flabbergasted. He was like, why? And so a lot
in
of
a
times,
negative way, like he thought the teacher,
absolutely, absolutely,
like you're dumbing down.
Yeah. I'm stepping down, and that's a great way to put it, because many times, especially as a son of immigrants, success is seen as linear, and it only goes this way. And so my father, he's a smart guy. He actually had a visa to come over here to the United States to study as a student. And so he did that twice. He went back to Mexico. My mom didn't have the proper paperwork, so my dad crossed with my mom, undocumented, through El Paso. So my dad, his dad dropped out in like 8th grade. My dad dropped out of high school and then came over here, was a student, then went back. So obviously the next step for him was, okay, I need my son to go to college. I need him to go to school. And so for me, the pressure was going to an Ivy League school. And there was a lot of pressure. I even, did an interview with a Harvard alumni down in the northeast of San Antonio. It was my first time stepping into a home that was architecturally different. Had glass and all this weird stuff. Anyways, my whole point with all this was, I was getting pushed in a direction that I didn't necessarily think I wanted. And then again, there's nothing wrong with a little push, here and there, but pretty much making the entire life choices for your kids is not the way to go. You want your kids to be happy with the choices they make, and you want them to really own those choices. And when they don't own those choices, when they're not the ones that have agency towards those choices are built on very, very weak foundations. And I tell my clients all the time, I go, look, give your kids a lot of agency. Let them choose, let them make their pathway. Yes, you don't want them to just say, I want to do something dumb, yeah, you're going to steer them away from that. But if they do something that's outside your perspective, you really got to think about that. You got to really say, okay, do I want to impose my will on my kids? That's something that you have to take. My compromise with that, because I did have that kind of expectation, especially like you said about college. I said, okay, don't do that, but I want you to have a plan. Just have a plan to, start developing skills that will, bring you income, that'll help you with that. And we talked about that on one of our other episodes where we talked about the trades, the crafts, and vocational training, and how they really do give a lot of fulfillment to these young men, and they're very profitable. And so when it came to those trajectories, some people may say, oh my God, he's taking a step down. Like, for example, like my youngest son who wants to do HVAC and welding. My dad was in construction. So my dad may see that as a step down. Like, hey, no, you're coming back to where I am. No, keep going up. And so to end this point and to reflect on what you had said, Kristina, parents often do that. They are using their own expectation, their own envy towards their kids and expecting some sort of return that is reflective on their parenting. And that is absolutely the wrong way to go about things. I have 2 boys. You have 4 kids. I would hope that, we did the best that we could. And the choices that our kids make are not reflective of who we are. I just want to tell all the parents out there, yes, I know you're going to take the good ones. When they do something bad, you're like, that's my boy, that's my girl. But I'm telling you right now, they are their own person. And eventually the choices that they make are their choices, no matter what their upbringing are, this and that. And so I just want parents to know that, like, your responsibility is just to give them the best platform and to, kind of show them like, hey, here's the opportunity, prepare them for that. And then, hopefully provide them the right set of values and kind of guidelines for them to make the right decisions in the future. So yeah, I think that's super important to make sure that parents don't realize that, Kristina, because if not, they're going to come up with these expectations and then they're going to lead themselves to disappointment. And that's also something you don't want to show your kids, that you're disappointed in something for them when it's just a reflection of you.
Mm-hmm. And I too have felt that pressure of not going the wrong direction social economically. That pressure, it's interesting that it's just from families trying to elevate who really intentionally are trying to go this direction. Same. I feel like my dad was the first one to go to college. And now his kids need to go to college, and which was fine. Like, I actually agreed. So that wasn't a push. But now that I am an adult, I'm continuously, I feel that underlying pressure of continuing to want to elevate and not go down. So like, it's kind of
it's a weird little hierarchy, right? You're talking about like, hey, I'm here or they're here. Now I got to go up, and then it's supposed to be going up and they're supposed to be going up. But there's no really kind of like, hey, can we stay right here? I found my spot because we have such, parents, grandparents, so forth. We have so much kind of expectations of a linear success that is supposed to be going, keep going. And in your case, you agreed with it, and that's great. That you kept pushing. But now, does it mean that if your kid doesn't want to go to college,
exactly,
does that mean that they're not a success or you're not a success?
Yeah. And I feel like I have a bigger perspective on that to understand that that's okay. However, there are definitely family members who would look at that as going downhill. Like they're backtracking. That's too bad. Now, I don't typically do this, but as we're talking, there is another part of this interview that was really impactful that I'm going to play right now. And it's because it's the potential consequences of these negative family dynamics on that child's personality and the future relationships that this guy talks about. I'm going to play this for you right now.
What does love mean?
The way in which we love as adults owes a huge amount to the way in which we experience love as children. Freud put it, at its best. His view was that we're looking to recreate painful situations that we experienced at the hands of our parents, but give them a better ending. Let's imagine a woman who finds herself very often getting together with angry, intemperate, slightly out of control men. Why is this happening? We might discover that the past of this person includes a father who was very much like this. What the person's doing is not looking to suffer forever. What they're looking is to understand the pattern and solve it. If you had an angry father and you come across a completely calm person, that might not be that interesting. You come across somebody who feels the temptation of anger but wants to work it through with you in your company, and that together you might heal from this problem. That can be deeply satisfying for people. I'm sure we've all had situations where you recommend that a good friend of yours goes out with another good friend of yours to go on a date.
Yes.
And you think these people really should match, and they're, both got so much to offer the world. And you call up your friend afterwards and you go, how did it go? And they go, really nice person. Maybe what they're perhaps struggling to say is, this person I encountered is too nice to give me the feeling of suffering that I need in order to feel I'm in love.
The quote he had in here, how we experience love as adults greatly influences how we experience love as children. And he says, we are looking to recreate a painful experience that we had in our childhood, but give the new experience a better ending.
Oh, man.
Now, to me,
did this guy like have put a camera in my house or something? Or
right? He is so good. Go read his books. He's an amazing philosopher. And
does he have a YouTube channel?
I don't know. I'd have to go look. I don't know.
Because I follow this YouTube channel called The School of Life.
Yes, that's him. That's
him. Okay. I knew it. Yes, I love his channel. I'm a subscriber there. Yeah. Okay. See, this is why you and me, we rock. You know what I'm saying? We know what's up. So yes.
Yes, we do. He's great.
Yeah. So for the viewers out there, The School of Life, it's on YouTube. It's a fantastic channel, and it offers these perspectives and these philosophies about love, relationships, etc. I've been listening to them now for I think 4 or 5 years now, and they're great. But no, what a fantastic part. For some reason it was clicking in my mind. I said, man, this guy's voice is so familiar. Okay.
Yes, you follow him.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's that good, and I do recommend him to all of our audience. Because his profound view, he sees things how it is, and breaks it down in a way that we can understand, and he's just so articulate about it. And that's what I really value from what he gives me is he says things that I already know, but he puts it in a way that I'm like, oh yes, that was it. That's what I've been searching for. That's exactly what I always knew, but just didn't have the words to put it in. Mm-hmm. This guy does that. Even with this subject, because he's saying like that the attraction that you're having is to understand and solve a problem that from possibly your childhood to give it a better ending. So I love his example of this person is too nice to give me the feeling of suffering that I need to feel that I'm in love. Oh, that's oof.
like just punch me in the gut already. Just
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but I do this. Can I tell you, the men that I choose in my life, they are. I mean, we always say the women pick their dads. I absolutely have done that, and my dad, as we mentioned in the beginning of this episode, it was a yeller. He yelled at everything. Like when he was angry, he was a yeller, and he had no in between. He was either great or he wasn't. There was no middle ground in them. So what do I grow up and marry? Like a very dominant and controlling man. And of course, I ended that one ended in divorce. So it didn't end well. Next partner I pick, same thing. It's the repeated patterns, but it's the reasoning behind it. That's what I didn't realize I was doing. Did I know I was picking the same kind of guy over and over again? Sure, I did. Everybody hears that. But it's because I'm looking for a different ending. It's because I want to understand it and fix it. And that would give me a sense of joy and satisfaction to know that I fixed my situation. And I do that to this day with my current partner. Every time he yells at me, every time he loses his temper. And it's a pattern that I see in my own life, for sure. And you?
Yeah, no, I think you hit it on the nail on the head right there. So many times we go around in life not realizing that we're trying to fix problems that we've had that are still lingering. We still want to fix. Rodrigo's mom, she was just like my dad. It was so crazy. I didn't even realize it until later on. I said, "Oh my God, I married somebody that's just like my dad." Why? I don't know. But like you said, later on, going through my wellness, my mental health journey, and going to therapy and so forth, I realized what it was is exactly that. I met somebody that fit that mold, that I could say like, "Hey, this is love, but I'm going to fix it. This is what love's supposed to be. This is what I grew up in." And so until I really kind of healed and started saying like, "Yeah, that's not what love is supposed to be," that's when I started getting out of that pattern. And what I try to tell my clients is the same thing. You can't try to fix things until you fix yourself first. I'm not an LPC. I'm not a licensed professional counselor, but I've had my own journey. So I tell folks, like, when I went through my journey, it helped me tremendously. You should consider going through your own journey, especially when I talk a little bit more personal to my clients, and quite frankly to the guys. I'm just going to be real straight up about. I would say that I've been able to help about 70 to 80% of the fellas that I've worked with to start their mental health journey.
That's awesome.
I'm super proud of that. Yeah, I'm super proud of that. And it doesn't come in a sense like I tell them like I prescribe it to them or this and that. It's just through the course of the journey, I'm always repeating like, yeah, when I went through my health journey, da, 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 and so you start normalizing it, right? And then they come to me with something, and I tell them, "Hey, look, this falls outside the purview of co-parenting. This really kind of is more of a mental wellness issue. Have you ever considered therapy?" And there might be a little scoff at the beginning or this and that, but eventually there'll be a breakthrough. And I'm super proud of that because we are normalizing those conversations. But at the end, the most important thing that we're doing is breaking that cycle so that we don't pass that to our kids, so that our kids don't grow up trying to fix something that we caused. And a lot of times it is because we unknowingly and subconsciously put that out there. And I know that I went through my kind of relationship stuff and looking for the right person and so forth, and it can be very tough. It can be very tough. It can be very comforting to fall into those same traps. But if you're not healing yourself, there's no way you can help heal others. There's no way you can go around life really doing it properly. So I think it's super important what you just said right now, and what also the gentleman said, that we really kind of realize what love is from a healed perspective. And if we don't have that, then we really don't know what real love is, because you're just kind of knocking around like a ping pong, going back and forth, trying to fix something that you haven't fixed. And I never really thought about it that way, that you're trying to heal something that was broken when you were a kid. And so what you're doing is really looking for the problem again.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't solved it. And that is an incredible perspective, because a lot of times we fall into that trap. I mean, you said it yourself, right? Like, hey, I know the type of guys I'm dating, but why is that? And it's like, and so for me, it's the same thing. It's like, okay, I know the type of women I'm dating, but why?
And attraction is attraction. Like I can't make myself be attracted to somebody who I'm not, that's just, and so you do have to kind of break it down more than, yes, I know I'm keep dating my father over and over again. Like, okay, that's great. But when I saw this, now that gave me reason behind why do I keep dating my father over and over again, so I was like, yeah, oh my gosh, I'm trying to heal a wound. And because I think 10 steps ahead all the time, it's me trying different tactics every single time to see which one's going to fit, which one is the one that's going to fix it. And I keep trying something new and something different and a different way to try to solve the problem. I was just like, oh, this one stuck me in the heart.
Yeah, no, when I heard that too, I was like, oh, okay, this guy, like get out of my head right now, please. It's like, come on, But no, and one final note on that, Kristina, I think it's really interesting how folks a lot of times don't want to take that route. The therapy route. And here we are, you and I, we've gone through our challenges. We are, parenting experts, and we admit that we still got work to do. And this is just kind of indicative of what, people go through. And I want to folks out there that watch the podcast, that watch this particular video, like, what are you working on right now to help better yourself, to help heal, to really find out what true love is for you and for your family? Because if you're not doing that work, if you're not recognizing, if you're not reflecting, where are you really going with it? And if you are healed, and I like to think that I am, and if you are healed, what are you doing to continue that? Because we never 100% heal. Those wounds that we have from our childhood, they're there. What we learn to do is cope with them and, manage them and make sure that we don't pass that down. What are you doing to make sure that happens? So I really would challenge our listeners and our viewers right now to really kind of think about that and reflect on what they're doing to make sure that they don't pass that down to their kids, and even to folks that don't have kids. What are you doing to make sure the relationships in your life are not being affected subconsciously by your pain, your previous pain, and your healing? I just wanted to add that note.
Yeah, that's where this comes down to. We need to have that as awareness of our patterns, the healing from our past trauma. We got to improve our communication skills so that we're not festering and holding all this stuff inside until it like explodes. We got to start breaking our negative cycles once we're aware of them, and then understanding our triggers and how we respond to triggers. All of that is just best, or more easily, I should say, more easily done through seeking support, therapy, counseling, because they're trained in that to help bring that out of us, and it's too bad there's such a stigma on it, because it's everybody can use it. Really, we all do. And I'm glad that we brought this up today, because it's just, I want everybody to realize these patterns so they can take those steps moving forward. And like you said, we'll go back to the beginning. More importantly, how are you trickling this down to your own kids right now? What is it that they're going to be having to work on too in the future? And no, you can't protect them from all the family dynamics and crazy and dysfunctionality, but at least you could be aware of it and heal yourself and try to minimize it as much as you can. Thank you for being here today. If you would like to reach out to Rodrigo Bravo for his co-parenting mediation and coaching services, you can email him at rodrigobravo@gmail.com. Thank you for listening today. Remember to subscribe and share this podcast with a friend. And don't forget, the Impactful Parenting Podcast is an extension of the Impactful Parent community. Go to the Impactful Parent website and download the free Impactful Parent app so you don't miss a parenting tip that can help you and your family. Thanks for listening today. So go to theimpactfulparent.com and see you next episode.